What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations. Hey, everybody. What is up? I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show. And I'm also the certified men's empowerment coach. But it's not my show tonight. It's all the men's show tonight, the men and those who love them. And as some people and more people are getting accustomed to, on Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern time, we have a full hour about manhood. And we're continuing on in our series tonight about the 4 powers that every man has. We're talking about the lover tonight. But the show wouldn't happen without a number of people. But the 2 most important people are diagonal on the screen to me. We got
to switch up. We're supposed to be in other places here. I'm not used to it.
And we got Glenn Parker from the Mankind Project in Chicago. We also have Dr. Marvin Thompson from the Lighthouse Education Foundation in New Orleans, Louisiana. And as always, we're going to have an outstanding conversation, and we are inviting people to join in. But before we chime out tonight, we have an exciting announcement about something coming up tomorrow night. So not only do you want to stick around for the show, but also a great announcement at the end of this show. So gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
We're doing great. This is a lot of fun. This is Glenn Barker here with the Mankind Project. I've been doing a tremendous series on archetypes here. So I'm glad to be here. Glad to those that are listening and joining us to be informed and educated along these important male developmental lines. So thanks for having us.
Excellent. And Dr. Thompson, how are things down in New Orleans?
They are warmer than I am used to, but I'm loving it. I took a vacation home over the holidays in Virginia. I will not miss 30-degree weather. I just don't miss it. And Glenn, as much as I love you, you won't see me in the winter months in Chicago, my friend. I'm loving it down here. The weather's great. The people are great. It's just in this topic right now, there's a lot of things going on around the country. But here in New Orleans, we've been experiencing, Katrina's always been the story, but there's a backstory to this. And a lot of what we're talking about here is literally laid out in communities all over this city where we have this absence of presence of men. And I'm not talking about the maleness. I'm talking about the space that men hold. So, every time we get on this show, there's an opportunity to, one, develop some concepts, but also to take them a bit further. So I'm always excited to be here. I always learn something new, not just from us ourselves, but we have some very intelligent, informed, open listeners. So I'm always as anxious to learn from them and hear what they have to say as much as what we share.
Well, and I'll just add another layer onto that description to the people who are regulars, especially the regulars that are on the show. They're very passionate and they're caring.
Yes.
They know this is an important thing. A lot of lovers. Yeah, and they're lovers of this, and they're very passionate, and they're committed to it in their own way. So we're in family. So Glenn, as always, we're going to hand it over to you because you're the tip of the spear on this one. So start off our conversation. Oh, actually, you want us to recap. I think that's what you want us to do.
Well, I'll give an overview and then we'll do a recap. I'll be glad to do that. So thank you, Dr. Vibe and Dr. Thompson, for being with us, and you that are joining us. What we are on the 3rd part of a 4-part series about the 4 powers of men. And the 4 powers of men, either you possess those powers or they're possessing you. And that's part of the discussion. If we think of ourselves as developing over time, let's think of ourselves, men, as developing in 4 arenas. One of those arenas is our aggression. Let's call that the warrior aspect of us. Is it powerful in serving, or is it powerful and destructive, or is there not enough in your life of that? And how's it being managed? Is it managing you, or are you managing it? That's one power. The other power is the magician power. And we're going to ask these men to do a recap on it. And that's the part of you that's intuitive and inventive and creative. That's where we get our scientists and doctors and chemists and programmers from. This is a wonderful part of our developmental process. When it's used for good, we get wonderful products, we get wonderful rituals, we get wonderful medicines. When it's abused, you're a manipulator. This is a terrible power to misuse or have it use you. and if you don't have enough of this, or if you're denying this part, there's a negativity or say a passivity to that. It's very destructive. Maybe Dr. Thompson will go into that. And tonight we're going to cover the love aspect of our lives, that part that really wants us to be connected. And I'm going to go into the lover. And next week will be about the kingship, about stewarding power in a wonderful way. So, Dr. Vibe, I've asked if you'd go into a little bit of a recap about the warrior aspect. Give us an overview in your estimation. Why is this, maybe put it this way, Dr. Vi, why is this valuable that a man is aware of this power? And is it using him or is he using it? Maybe you could put it in that aspect, if you would, please.
No
what have
problem.
You learned about this warrior?
Well, one of the things is that many young boys who become men are given or provided or encouraged to be a warrior. But the concerning thing that there can be good aspects of a warrior and bad aspects of a warrior. You can have a warrior that helps raise a cause and a people and a foundation to a better and higher level. But we also have other warriors that when they go through something, it's worse off than when it started. And we have to be very careful. It's a balancing. It's like a tightrope that you don't want to be too destructive, but you don't want to be too restrictive. And controlling that warrior spirit inside of you to realize, and one of the things that I don't know if it came out of what we said, but someone else said maybe during the conversation, that a warrior always brings people up to a greater cause. It's not just himself. It's he's bringing, for lack of a tribe. He's bringing a tribe with him. He is not just a Han Solo, taking the Star Wars analogy. He's bringing a tribe with him. So that's a little short synopsis. And if you didn't get all that, watch the replay. There you go.
And I have one more follow-up question with you, Dr. Vibe. If you didn't have enough warrior in you, what would be that effect?
If you didn't have enough warrior in you, I think it's an analogy. I would say this. How grounded are you when the wind blows, warrior? So if you don't have a warrior spirit in you, the wind's going to blow you over. How grounded are you, warrior, when the wind blows in a direction opposite the one you're going?
Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Yeah, that's wonderful. So there's an overview of the warrior, and should we be stewarding this in a good way? Absolutely. Are we to look at how we develop our young men along these axes? Absolutely. Should it go unregulated? No. This is not instinct. This is a tutelage. And that's, for me, why, again, good, powerful, conscious men, not to push men down, but not to let them go rampant either, to help hone this skill so that it's there and it's powerful and used for good and to destroy what needs to be destroyed. That's important as well. Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Dr. Thompson, remember last time we did the magician. Give us an overview of your estimation of use, abuse, and absence of this power, and maybe how it could be developed. What was your takeaways?
Okay. Well, the magician to me is literally the encourager. It's really a role where you help people identify and solve their own problems, show them insights to things that they didn't see themselves. That's the knowledge part of it. And in a lot of it has to do with really unlinking some hidden, self-hidden truths. Whether it's information seeking, teachers are great magicians when they unlock knowledge for young people. They're also problem solvers. They also can serve as priests, where people can go to and confide in, not so much so for an answer, but for a place to hold some of their thoughts and to be able to process them. So they're literally people who help others along their journey. There's some negative sides to that. And I think, Glenn, you mentioned this early on. With all of that knowledge comes trust, and all of that engagement comes trust. And it's easy to become a manipulator. They can take that information and use it for themselves. And then they're not serving the warrior. They're not serving the king. They're not serving the lover. They're not serving others. They're serving themselves. And they can be game players in a lot of cases, and kind of people in their negative side, hard to hold down to things, hard to get a direct answer from. And they like to jump around. And we had a great example last week of one of our guests who came on, I think it was Jay, who talked about the jokester and him that was his magician, and how he transformed and how it held him back, and how others held him in. And I thought it was a great, honest sharing of his understanding and his experience of what a magician is in its shadow.
How wonderful, man! Let's look at what transpires in just a couple sessions and going into this. So think about yourselves, men, having this great power. It's the power of the magician. And actually, if you think about magicians, what do? They can make magical things happen, right? And it's very vast in us. It's where we get all our imaginings from, all our creativity, right? And yes, it could be used for good. So, and it could also be used to do very evil and devious manipulation things. Dr. Thompson is spot on. And if we're pretending we don't have it, or it has us, it's kind of a person that can't act. They can talk, they can think, they can do a song and dance, but they really don't accomplish anything. Is this something we should be stewarding in our young people and in ourselves as men? Absolutely. It's a developmental line that requires taking the responsibility and not letting this be happenstance. So again, this is a tutelage. This development is not instinct. It's a tutelage. We are born with this power. Does it have us, or are we going to take control of that power and use it for good? So now we have the warrior. We have the magician. Tonight we're going to talk about the lover. And we're going to ask our audience to join with us to tell us their lover stories. So the lover is fun, meaning that's the one that gets us in the most trouble. It really does. The warrior can get us into deep doo-doo, but the lover is the one that gets us into trouble. But let's talk about the lover in its purest, most wonderful sense. You see, warriors are a little detached. Magicians are really detached. The lover is the part of us that makes us human. Later, even when we talk about the king, it's the compassion part. It's what allows us to empathize, right? To connect with streams and nature and other people and the universe, and that we're part of something and that we have a relationship and a place amongst all of the things in the cosmos. And we yearn for that connection. So that's it, and that's the human part. So when you're in warrior, if you didn't have any lover, you would just be a killer. If you didn't have any compassion. If you're a magician and you don't have any compassion, a sense for the impact of the caring of the other people, you could be a terrible, terrible manipulator. And if you're a king that has no love or compassion, you're a tyrant. So the lover gives us our humanity. Boy, should we be developing a healthy kind of lover in our worlds? Yes. And now, like all of our archetypes, which is a developmental line, the lover has the ability to be a wonderful contributor and to take over, as each of these archetypes. And you see this. You see men that are full magician, like Dr. Thompson said. It's consumed their lives to be this a trickster or a manipulator or inventor of some sort. And you certainly see it in the warrior that Dr. Vibe talked about. It will consume your life, men, to always be on task, right? To always be on point to get things done. And there's a cost to that. The lover, too, has three aspects. In its fullness, it's a great contributor. It gives us heart. In its other side, which we call shadow, it gets it to be addictive, because the lover doesn't care about boundaries. The lover doesn't care about your mission. The lover doesn't care, right, about anything else about being satisfied. So we're drinking, huh? You see men drink themselves to death. You see players out there in the world of sex and relationships. It's consuming. The lover wants what it wants and it don't care. So if you don't have a good warrior, right, to say, time for bed. You got to get up tomorrow, right? You don't have a magician that knows where to hide the bottle and help support all this, right? Are you starting to see the three aspects? So, got a little cheat sheet here. So, yeah, I passed it around to everyone. Maybe if anybody writes to me, I'll be glad to send these cheat sheets, which is a lot of this information kind of boiled down to a few sentences. So the power of the lover is connected, alive, enthusiastic, compassionate, empathetic, and energized. If you find somebody depressed, they don't have enough lover. They're not passionate about anything. This is where passion comes from, right? It has goals and achievements, and it's also with the spirituality piece, like Dr. Thompson said. It's got the connection to spirit, right? It does have a deep longing to it, though, and it does want a better world. And when you stop doing stuff and you're just being you and just taking in joy, that's lover. That's lover. Now, the shadow part is the addict, as we talked about. It has a struggle at all times between the boundaries of the warrior and wanting just to be satisfied. Always satisfied. Always me, always satisfied. Yeah, drinking, smoking, drugs, sex, pleasure. That's what it wants. The last part, the lover is absent. Interesting. Absent of lover? Maybe you're in a fog. Maybe you have no enthusiasm. You're bored, depressed, no deep, really passionate drive. You feel separate from everyone else. Maybe even sexually inactive. The lover absent is one of those things where the saying comes, without a vision, the people perish. And that means that without a love and a passion and vision for your life, people don't want to go on living. So there are three aspects to this power. To be aware of that developmental line is important. How it reacts and keeps us alive and part of these others is important. If it's got you, though, it's running your life. And maybe you're an addict. Or maybe that's the only thing that matters, is your pleasure. But done well, you can be a great warrior, but you're not a sadist. You tear down what needs to be torn down. You put up what needs to be put up because that's the right thing to do with compassion. And maybe it's more compassionate to tear something down that needs to be torn down. Get that connection? It's not being about a sweetheart all the time. My warrior says this organization must come down. It's gotten corrupt. That's a compassionate thing to do for our world. Got that? You can tear things down from love. If your warrior and your magician and your king you're serving is a just cause. So, Dr. Vibe, in your life, touch on any of these. Where do you think you have your lover like just right? And have you ever found the lover, ever found yourselves in the grips of the lover or absent, you were numb? Speak to that if you would. Speak to the lover.
I think to the lover part of it is, and I think some other men can relate to this, is many men, especially in their 20s and 30s, their love is to achieve in the workplace. That's where they want to be loved. Or
the warrior.
I can say for myself.
Yeah.
Exactly. They want their love and admiration to be shown in the workplace, maybe at home too, but that's where they want to be, whether it's sports, workplace, etc. Mm-hmm. And in my younger days, that's where all the love was. That was all I wanted to see, love there, whether it was attaining a position, getting compliments, etc. But as I've gone in my journey, my lover is turned to the people I care about, my family, my friends. I didn't have a childhood where I openly saw love from my father. So I had to learn the hard way, which sometimes is the best way, that I had to learn how to love and then learn how to love the right things in my journey. It's one thing to be a lover, but what are you loving? And are those things the right things that a man should be loving?
So what also I hear from you is that, which is a wonderful part of what we do here, men, is that you're wounding as a young man, right? In some ways, you were wounded in the lover arena, right? You did not get this piece, say, from your father.
No.
Yet.
No.
Knowing this, you didn't pass on the same disconnected, whatever, emotionally unavailable man to your children. You decided from that wound you were going to do what? Bring a gift. I am not going to let my children feel this way, right?
Make my testimony.
So talk about the developmental line. So think about that, everyone. Dr. Vibe is telling us straight up that in his developmental line of lover, he learned that he was also wounded and he didn't get what he wanted from his father. He didn't get the fathering he wanted. Now, he could have passed that on to be an emotionally absent or maybe even abusive father to his kids, but somehow in his journey, he realized that was a wounding, and what he wanted to give to his children was a better version of that. So this is a part of this work. So it's not just to know this knowledge in order to be another bright, special boy, or a great magician here. It's to look at ourselves through this developmental line and see if it's done well, right? And what we can do as mentors and teachers. Any part of the lover that when it was ever absent, that was absent in your life in some ways, and you turned that around. Instead of just getting what you wanted as a mature man now, you're actually doing it as a gift to give back. See how the three parts were there? He was wounded as from an absent lover as young. He probably could have become into addictions or anything else and been just like his father in the active pole. But he decided instead, somehow, and maybe you'll tell us about that, what do you think made that change for you, Dr. Vibe? What turned you into the kind of generative man that knew he had to give versus being selfish? Was there a turning point? What happened?
There's been so many events. They're
what opened those eyes?
What opened those eyes? Geez.
The birth of your child. There's a lot of people say, you know what, I got to get out of my own stuff.
You know what it was? That it was my dad coming to me one day and saying to me, I love you. And that the most important thing for him is when he goes to bed at night that he knows that his kids are safe. And he never said that for many years, but that sort of love going from fatherhood down to sonhood. That's key.
I have a very switch for you, yeah.
Well, the switch happened from my male role model, my father, making a turn and saying, it's all about the love I have for you. And I want to show the love that I didn't give you when I was younger. I want to show you that love now.
No, many men don't come into their feelings into their later lives. And so they've been stuck in warrior or magician or one of these other archetypes. And it's work. And like Dr. Vibe even said, I hope to get my love and significance and my needs met at work. And men invest in that very heavily. And they're hoping that they get the love at home for working themselves to death. That's how they show love. Dr. Thompson, look back at when looking back into a part of your own life where you said either I was possessed by the lover or when did I start to understand that I needed to take control of this part of my life? Or where was absent, where you're just numbed out and you know what, I'm just don't want any part of anything. I'm checking out of life.
Oh, I was sitting here thinking as Dr. Vibe, you gave me tons of time, Dr. Vibe. Thank you very much. But guess what? I got nothing. And I mean it. And here's why I don't mean I don't have anything. As I'm thinking through this and understanding the lover aspect, and it starts early. I mean, it's one of the first archetypes that develops in a man. And I know early on in my life, caring and compassion were always a huge part of my makeup. And that's much like Dr. Vibe, our circumstances create that. And I was a eldest son of a single mother, and I had a younger brother 1 year younger than me. So very early on, 4 or 5 years old, I was a caretaker. So that love or compassion part of it was automatically tied to family and responsibility. And I think that has shaped me from that moment to this day. I think the disappointments that, as I look at them, that have occurred in the giving up part have always been around that. Whether or not something was, I was being responded to, or the response to my caring, my compassion was met equally. If it was valued, if it was appreciated. I have checked out in situations where I didn't felt that was met. I've checked out in those situations personally in marriages. I didn't feel as though that was being valued. It was being appreciated. and respect it for what it was. It was given with love, but not received in that way. So I know that's one way I've checked out, that I've just, nope, not going to do it anymore. And I've also been in professional situations where it wasn't conducive to what I was giving. I've also found in those situations that lover can be killed not only by ourselves, but when it's not received. And in order to avoid my compassion being killed and diminished or devalued and eliminated, it was better and safer to leave to keep me intact. And I thought that was probably, of anything I've ever learned in my life, the one that's always been consistent. One of my brothers says, you're like a rebel looking for a cause, but if the cause doesn't want you, you'll let it die. And I'm like, only to move to another place. Mm-hmm. I don't have to fight that battle there, right? And then I was in my late 20s when I began to understand that.
Glenn, I just want to add something to it. And I've opened up a seat for anyone who wants to join in that I have a periscope now looking for love. Mm-hmm. And one of the stories, and I'll keep it short, that really caught my periscope was a number of years ago. I went to my public school's 50th anniversary.
Oh, my.
And went there, saw a lot of people. First of all, you go into your public school and say, I actually went in this place. Like,
it's not that big.
It's not that big, right? Like, I know some people's homes that are bigger than half the school that I went to, right?
Right.
And met a lot of wonderful people. And then in the door of the library, there's this elderly gentleman with a cane. And I said, I'm always inquisitive, and I'm going, who is this man? Who is this man? Went over. It was the gentleman that was the principal when I went to that school.
My. Wow.
And it was amazing. We sat down for about half an hour, and there were only 3 children of color, 3 black kids in this school. So we were like maybe 2% of the school population. And I remember him telling me, he said, you know what? I had to make sure that you were protected because I know it wasn't easy for you and your parents. And I had to make sure that you were cared after and looked after, because it wasn't always easy, I know, for you and your parents and those other children's parents.
Did you know that when you were there at the time?
Did not know that at all. And that's why I keep my periscope always looking for those moments of love. Because if you're going to be a lover, you got to look for love too. You can't just say you got to look and keep your periscope open and catch those moments of love that keep you encouraged as a man to say there's other men out there. It's not just you. There are other great examples of manhood loving it. So I just wanted to share that story.
Oh, that's beautiful. My takeaway on that is a question I ask often, and ask yourselves, everybody out there. Are we looking for reasons to feel joyful, or are we looking for reasons to be offended? What does your radar have up? What are you looking for? Because you're going to find it, and you're going to ignore those other signs. So when was the last time any of us really sat and watched the sunset, actually just admired something of beauty, went to go see something of art, a piece, and just gave it a chance to try to appreciate a great piece of music, right? A great play, something out of the norm, but yet it has a great enriching value to us. I'll maybe Dr. Thompson has some things, but I wanted to out myself around my lover. My lover could be an addict of anything. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. If I get significance from it, I know my needs. If I get significance, if I get loving connection, right, and I feel that I can contribute, those 3 things are a hook for me, and things grab me. That's what gets a grip on me, because those are the things I long for: to contribute, to get love and connection, right, and to feel significant. Boy, that's the triad that grabs me, and I'm in. And there's things that do that aren't good for me. I have to watch substances. I come from a long line of alcoholism and stuff, and there's types of things. It doesn't matter what it is. If those 3 things are in there, it'll grab me, and that lover will take over, and it'll start to consume me. And it doesn't always mean to my destruction, except that I can become a workaholic. In fact, I do work a very lot of the time. So if you find yourself always compelled to work, in some ways that lover's got you. It's trying to get something, right? And it's got you. Dr. Thompson, you're going to comment on Dr. Vibe's work, on his piece.
No, well, Dr. Vibe's piece I thought I was caught up in listening to it because in understanding where it comes from, and I was connecting with it because understanding that it is one of the first developing archetypes in all of us. And then my dad said to me years ago, I must have been a teenager, never forget what it was like to be a boy. And it was one of those moments where I was, I want to be older. I can't wait till I'm a grown up and do what I want to do. And he wasn't saying to me, don't grow up too fast. What he was saying to me was, don't forget what it's like to be a boy. And what he meant by that was specifically, what are your dreams? What are your wants? How do you see the world? You don't have to change that to get older. As you get older, you don't have to let that go. So as I was listening to Dr. Vibe, it was as if his father was going back and sharing that, and he was capturing that, but he's understanding it now. Whereas early on in my life, I was able to hear it, understand it, and carry it with me, right? Even to the point I still read comic books. I mean, come on. I mean, some of it's literally, some of it's figuratively, but it's the context in which we live. And so, early on, the lover part of it, if you connect with it and you define that purpose, that's the developing part. This is why connecting with kids and families are so important, because it's a huge piece of who they are. And every time we go to counselors or psychologists, there's always a value placed on that childhood experience. And there's a reason why that's there. And the lack of compassion shows up when young people, when that doesn't exist early. You find dysfunction in people when that connection isn't made, particularly in our young boys.
True. Very true.
How wonderful.
It leads on to, where are our young boys given examples of love?
Yeah,
from a man.
Yes.
From a man. And Glenn, and this is not to, analyze it to death, but I can imagine, and this is more of a question than it is a statement, that some of the obsessions and compulsions that come out of this lover when it's in his shadow may have to do with that absence. And I know it's not so much, right?
That hunger.
When it's absent, that hunger, right? So I don't know how to respond to it because I've never seen it. And it's almost it's a payback, right? It's reaching out without knowing how to, but I'm going to satisfy something, right? I know what's missing. I don't know what's missing, but something's missing. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to keep looking for it, and I'm going to stay with it until this thing makes me feel better.
I'm going to jump all over that. Dr. Thompson has hit on something, again, that is just absolutely stellar, and that is the hole that's in the young men's heart, and our young women too, and psyche, around the absence and remoteness, or call emotionally detached father. What happens when in the absence of that father hunger? And it's powerful. Don't let me not get to the second part of the father quest in our lives. So the absence of remoteness of a powerful, compassionate, passionate, powerful man, to model this for especially the young men, leaves a hole in the heart and the psyche. And that hole doesn't fill up with Hollywood Bambis, does it? No. That hole, that hunger, fills up with demons. And that's usually abandonment issues, a distrust of other men, and then a connection to women, often, that is way definitely outweighing what they can't be compensated for by women. And so they basically turn away from other men. And what young men, you find them doing, is they find them wanting to be initiated. They want to learn how to become a man, but they don't have men around, and maybe they're even now resentful of men, or scared, or they think they're all just old farts or whatever. They go to other boys, and they join gangs, and they do stupid stuff, and they try to initiate themselves to become a man. And there's a word for that. It's called puarchy. It's Lord of the Flies. If you ever know that movie or book, it's the rule of boys, and it's dangerous. So what boys do with this father hunger is it leaves a hole. And like Dr. Thompson said, don't even know that hole is there. They want that love. They want that connection. They want that intimacy with a man. But of course, in our homophobic society, it's not okay to say, "Hey, brother, I love you." You can't say that because now you get the look. So this goes on, right? And then you go to other boys. They create some crazy rituals, maybe even with guns or whatever in a gang, and now you're into all that. So that what? So you can feel part of something. So you can be loved. Is the bottom line. Let's say it. So you can be loved, right, by other men, appreciated, honored, held up. Be part of, be included, finally. The last thing I'll say is something that seems awfully unfair. Men, if you want to have a relationship with your father, you have to go to your father. The story men make up is, he should know. No, he doesn't know. He never got it himself. The reason you've got this work is because he gave it to you. If you want to talk about sins of the father, this is one of them. You men are carrying your father's unfinished work. Get this piece. You men, all of us, are carrying our father's unfinished work. If you were never loved, it's because he was never loved. If he couldn't discipline himself and do things, your warrior suffers. If he was a tyrant, you're going to carry his unfinished work. And if he was an abuser of love, or he didn't have love for you, you're carrying his unfinished work. So part of that hole in the psyche and the heart is not about you. You carry it. But it was an inheritance. It was an inheritance from your parents. It was an inheritance from a wound that you didn't get, and we all have it in some degree or another. Now, if you want to change that, Dr. Vibe said he had a realization where he realized that was a wounding and he was not going to inflict that on his children. Yay. If you still want that from your father, you're going to have to go see him and tell him. He's not going to come to you because he can't. You can say won't. Say whatever you want. The reason it's going on, don't expect that he's going to come to you. If you want to get love from your father, change the relationship. It seems unfair. The son has to go to the father and say, this is not okay anymore. So I'll do a heart piece of my own. I was in my late teens and Vietnam War was going on. It was almost time to go to the draft. The men were killing children. It was horrific how the men were coming back. I didn't want to go to the Nam. My father said, if you don't, he was a military guy. He says, if you don't want to go, then get out. So I'm on my own now. Well, anyway, so I carried this grudge and this contempt for my father for a good 10, 12 years. I tell you, folks, I finally figured out, after doing some of this, starting getting into this work, that I was just angry. I was angry all the time. I was angry at my father. Right? He would send me off to die rather than be a compassion for me. And so I had this story about him. So let's make this short. At 30 years old, I went back to see my father. And I said, I've been punishing you. And let's get with this. We talked about this. How do you punish people with your love or to take it away? I said, I've been punishing you in my mind and being absent and remote from you for over 10 years, trying to punish you. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of living like this. He says, come over, son. We come over and we talk. And to my wonderment and delight, he says, Glenn, you're right. Right about what, Dad? That Vietnam War thing? You were right. If I know what I know now, what these poor guys went through, the way they're coming back, the way they were treated, the things they had to do, I wouldn't send any son of mine to go to that, and you were right. I was wrong. Yeah. We cried. We held each other.
But you went to him. You had to go to him.
I had to go.
And he'd have taken that to his grave, right? Yep. And you'd be here today still holding on to that space that he created, that moment created.
That moment created.
Yeah, those are the things that don't happen. Yeah, those are the things that just don't happen. It's funny you share this story because my dad served 32 years in the Marine Corps as a sergeant major. And I had exact opposite experience. I was in college. Recruiter comes to college, and he recruits me to go to officer candidate school. I go home thinking my dad, who at the time was a first sergeant, is going to be proud that his son is going to follow in his footsteps and not only join the Marine Corps, but be an officer. My dad was 6'2", 250 pounds of poster boy Marine. Dr. Vibe, Glenn, listeners, that man, as we had this family meeting in the living room, I never saw a man move that fast. Came across the table, lifted me off the ground. I played college football. I was 195 pounds, like I was 6. Pinned me against the wall and told me that will never happen. And his reason was what your dad told you he realized. What my dad said to me was, I served 3 tours so that my 3 boys never have to do that. I want more for you. So that was a life-changing experience. Now, I have to tell you, I don't know what I thought for like a day. Because I'm like, there was an easier way to tell me this, right? There was another way where I could have stayed on my feet for you to tell me this. But when I reflected on it, and it didn't take long, that level of emotion, that level of conviction, and it wasn't just about me, it was about all of us. That was love. That was the lover in him coming out and saying, that will never happen because I love you that much. I know what can happen. I know what can happen to you.
And he was using his warrior and his king too to make that message awful clear.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he also told me, I wouldn't make it in the Marine Corps because I wouldn't follow orders. If I didn't like something, I wouldn't do it. He goes, and I'm not coming to visit you in the break.
I just going to interrupt for just a moment. I'm just going to read some of the comments that are going on the side.
Yes.
It's encouraging. If anyone wants to jump in and talk about the lover aspect in manhood, there is a seat free. I'm enjoying the comments on the side at Ria_design. I'll be bold enough to say my being the oldest of two oldest and happening to be a female child impact remains. Yes, there's small biz guru. Yes, that is true. What we must learn to do is allow the Holy Spirit to heal that wound so that we have our Father's business in our heart.
Absolutely true.
Preacher's Kid. I'm finding so many parallels between your 4 powers ethos and what is written by Dr. Stu Weber in his book, 4 Pillars of a Man's Heart. Sarita T. Douglas, released forgiveness is more for us than the other person.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So I'll wrap up my story, then I'm going to put out a question to our viewing and listening audience. To wrap up my story about the wartime story, I did register for the draft. It was legal to do, and I was lucky. In the last lottery, I pulled up in the 300s, and then I did never have to actually go. So that was part of what I told my father too. What he didn't know was that there was also a part of me that wanted to make him proud of me. So I went and registered anyway. And during my time, my number didn't get pulled. So even though I hated him, or I believe I hated him, what I really wanted to do is have his love. I hated him because I couldn't get his love. Do you get that, everybody? I hated him because I couldn't get his love.
Yeah.
So my challenge to our listening audience, where have you used love as a weapon? Where have you maybe played with people's emotions? Where have you withdrawn? This is a big one. Tell us about when you've withdrawn your love to punish somebody. This is big. Shame is another piece that you can do to control somebody. Moms, you know this. I'm not happy with you. I'm going to withdraw my love to punish you. When do you do it? How do you weaponize? How do you weaponize, right, your archetypal powers? Yes, I'm a powerful, compassionate, loyal, loving, caring person. And I can shut you out in a moment and check out emotionally out of my relationship with you. And that's designed through my magician to hurt you. So my magician knows how to use my love to hurt you. And my warrior over there is going to make sure I stay vigilant at it.
Well, it's how we fight.
That's how we fight.
It's how we fight.
I can't kill you. I'm just going to make your life hell.
Yeah. I'll lie to you. I'll cheat on you. I'll steal from you. I'll withhold love.
I won't support you. Yeah.
I'll stay away from you.
I'm not going to take your side. I'm not going to bail you out. I'm going to leave you hanging. I'm going to leave you out in the rain. I've basically written you off. Come on, everybody. Yeah. Come on in. Let's see how you weaponize these powers, right? Or maybe how you've been victimized from it. Because if you're weaponizing them, I'm telling you right now, it's because you were wounded by them.
Mm-hmm.
You're using your powers as weapons against yourself or someone else. It's because you've been wounded around that.
You know, Glenn, there's another side to this, I presume, and I'd love for you to talk about this if it applies, that insecurities can be a weapon, right? Those who have had love withheld from them, who never address it. And this is more, again, a question more than a statement, who've never had it and have developed deep insecurities in relationships, for example, use that insecurity to seek to get love, right? It's not actual love. It's what they consider love. Yeah. They're manifesting and mistaking love for relationships and filling that need. And that's when the magician, the lover, and the magician and the other individual can become manipulative, right?
Absolutely. Again,
right.
Dr. Thompson, again, a terrific, intuitive, and pointed insight. So this can manifest in two ways. I can become the perpetrator, or I seek perpetrators to get this weird kind of version of love that's abusive. So I can be either the victim or the perpetrator of any kind of wound. So the way I describe these things is a wounding. So you didn't get love in the way you wanted it. So that's the hole. Now, the sad part of all this, everybody, is that hole may never get filled. If you didn't have a father and he was gone and he died and you can reconcile, you can do your forgiveness work. But I'm not naive enough to think there's a fix. I think there's a realization that there's a hole, that there's a wounding there, and that we need to try to look to live a life that is fulfilling, even with a hole, right? A hole in this place. But Dr. Thompson, I think, again, hit something very profound. If I was raised, let's say, I'm in an abusive home, I can become an abuser, or I could look for abuse as a way to get my love needs met. That's the unconscious shadow seeking fulfillment by either being an abuser themselves or being abused. Yes. So the answer to that, Dr. Thompson, is yes. And we can see this in every arena. The longing is unbelievable. And this can possess whole people's lives. You see them going from relationship to relationship, doing this with the same kind of person.
Yeah.
Why? Are they stupid? No. They're trying to fill a hole.
Yeah. We see it in families also. We see the same patterns in families can carry on and perpetuate. Dr. Vibe, your story is powerful because you obviously were going to do something different with your children, but you're confronting that absence changed a whole pattern for you in your life. And I would surmise a pattern within your family. It's like we keep talking about breaking cycles of poverty. But Glenn, I've said to you before, whether it's poverty or violence or whatever the case may be, but poverty and all of those things are outcomes. When we talk about them, they've already happened. So they're outcomes. Everything begins with a thought, right? And then an emotion. And in the absence of love, emotion is driven by a thought that's never acknowledged. It just isn't acknowledged. It's the emotion that becomes the driver of thoughts when it should be the other way around. And this cycle perpetuates itself in families. You can hear it in the way they talk.
Oh, yeah.
Certain families have a language around their love, right? And the absence of it. And it's a really powerful dynamic when you hear and see it, and it becomes their thing.
Yes.
It becomes their story, and it's the one they hang on to. And it really does define what that compassion and love and response to absence of that love looks like.
So let me ask both of you as a conversation piece, because time is, as usual, flying.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Is that, and again, if someone wants to take a seat, no problem. I know there's a lot of great conversation going on in the comment section. With Dr. Thompson, you mostly deal with younger men, and Glenn, you deal with older men. Where are they getting their thought process of love from?
Can I start?
Please.
I'm going to tell you, with younger people, and I mean younger, if you got a television in your house, that's where a lot of it starts. Their perceptions, young people's perceptions, are not shaped the way my generation's perceptions were shaped, or Glenn's or yours, and maybe probably some of our listeners. If you're over 25 or 30 or 40, I should say, your values were shaped a little differently, and love concepts. These concepts that our young people see today are things that they emulate. And Glenn talked about it before. When they can't find it, they'll go create it, and they'll gather around those that will do it. There is a greater number of single parent households, and even with dual parent, because that's not the sole factor. I think that gets overplayed more than it should. It has a different set of outcomes. But in most homes today, the media, social media, there are many more outlets that influence what young people do. And their actions are weighing against what those perceptions are. Their perceptions of love, what it looks like, how it manifests itself. You can't watch the Disney Channel today without 12-year-old girls dating. And, these are things that our young people are indoctrinated to at a very early age. So the dynamic in asking them the questions, where do they get their love? The question probably that is more appropriate for this generation of young people is asking them, what is love? Because that's the biggest gap that I see with our young people. It's more than, we're speaking from understanding, and we're also speaking from a different context of development. I'm not so sure that Marvin Thompson would be the Marvin Thompson that I am had I been raised in this era, under these circumstances, with this level of influence. My parents were strong, but I don't know, given my dad's schedule, he was gone, every 3 years, he was out of the country. So that was a norm for us. My mother worked. I'm not so sure with what we see today in terms of external influences upon the family that I would be the same person. And my definition of love as I know it now would be the same. That's what I see in our young people.
Glenn, older men.
Older men. Well, I also want to compound. Dr. Thompson always gets my inner dialogue started in wonderful ways. What I get from you, Dr. Thompson, is a question I'd like to ask the audience, and then we'll talk about older men. So, what does love look like? What does love look like to you? So we're talking about all these different manifestations. So if there's a way to be separate from it. So let's say, what is it? Well, what does it? Describe it to me. What does love look like to you?
I'm going to give it to you from what I tell my kids. I have my daughter just turned 24 last week, and a 22-year-old son. And I can remember telling them very early on, it's something actually they talk about quite a bit. It started with them. I explained to them that it was important for them to love and care for each other, that I did not ever want to hear them speak externally. They're going to argue. They are. I mean, I just have never seen it, but they do. They're kids and they're brothers and sisters. They live in the same house. I did not ever want to hear that argument outside of that home, and it's something they should always resolve. That's number one. Number two, they should always look for opportunities when they see people who need help to give it. Never deny someone else help. Boy. So just those lessons were compassion. And when they look at what I do for a living, their dad's a teacher. He takes care of kids. He used to go to work with me. And I treated my kids, my students, the same way I treated my kids. They were all one big family. Even my kids' students would come over and spend the night. My point being, that concept of love started with me. And I have watched my children do exactly the same thing. Dr. Vibe got his father to pass something to him that he was holding back, that he didn't know how to communicate, as you said earlier, Glenn. So to me, love is about compassion. It's about understanding, and it's about empathy, not sympathy.
Yeah.
I never trained and taught my kids to feel sorry for people, but to understand their plight. And when you have empathy, you now have the highest level of compassion.
Agreed.
You now, when you act, your compassion is well beyond just a perfunctory, I did this. You felt it. You meant it. And it stays not only with you, something you can grow, but it's also something the person can carry away with them. And that's love.
Okay, well, we have someone that's joined the conversation, the Unconventional Men. Welcome to the conversation. What would you like to share with us?
Thank you for allowing me to sit down. I actually want to piggyback on what Dr. T was saying about parents. My opinion on that, about the whole Twitter thing, and well, kids are being raised by social media, and if you don't give your children value, they're gonna receive the values and beliefs from social media. So an example of that, I think everything starts with parenting. It starts with the parents first. An example of that is my niece. She was watching a makeup tutorial, and she was telling me that these girls are. I asked her, "Why are you watching that?" She said, "Well, these girls are beautiful, and I need makeup to be beautiful." And this is a 5-year-old, right? So I sit down with her and I tell her, "You know that this isn't real, right? These people right here, they're not real. That makeup is not real. Real beauty comes from you, from being a nice person, being a genuine person. So you have to instill those values in them." And I think a lot of parents, they feel overwhelmed. They don't want to make the time, because everybody has time. Either you make it or not. Some parents don't make the time to sit down and actually educate their children on what those values and beliefs need to be, because it starts from the family household first.
And
Bravo.
That's a great
Bravo. Bravo.
What and I appreciate you standing up and standing strong on that. We need more men to stand up and stand strong on situations like that. Doesn't matter if whether it's a young boy or young lady. You took the opportunity to stand up and stand strong, and I commend you for that.
And when as she grows up, she's going to look for a man like you. And if you showed her that her true beauty is on how she shows up as a person in the world, and that's what she should look for, someone that sees beyond that. I'm sure she's beautiful. I'm sure she's going to have a lot of suitors. But to have her look for a man that says, yes, you're beautiful, or not, but it's you I want to be connected with. There's something about the wonderment, the generativity, the loveliness of your being that enriches my life. And I want to be near that, maybe for the rest of my life. Oh.
Yeah, your take was excellent. And, one of the things I want to point out, and we talk about this from time to time on the show, and it fits in everything you just talked about. A lot of times when we're redirecting people, we have to kill something in order to present something. So let me give you an example of what I'm saying. And this is the fallacy in problem solving. This is how we rarely get people to move to a place where we want them or they need to be. So when she's looking at the girl with the clothes and makeup and whatever, those are the opportunities to not put down the makeup, not put down the girl, not say that that's bad, but this is the opportunity to turn the value system directly to the child. This is the opportunity to say to them, this is how you are. This is how beautiful you are. This is what I'd like for you to be. This is what you can be. And get them. And this is where it really comes down to, because if they can internalize what you're sharing with them, it's not a choice, right? It's a conversation that they can internalize, that they can feel, and they can carry with them through the next decision. your words will stay with them more than that picture.
Yeah.
They can touch you. They can feel you. They can go there. So you recognizing that is so powerful, brother, and I applaud you for it. But I want you to remember, it's hard for parents to do because we love to just, we love somebody. It's like, hey, stop. This is going to tear you down. You never have to tear down the thing you're pulling them away from to build something else. It's something we do in our world, and we've been conditioned to do this with every problem that ever happens. That's why we never move, right? We get a new toy. Well, this toy's better than that. Well, no, it's not. It's just you like. That was not a bad toy. It was good yesterday. So it's not a bad toy. You just have a different toy.
Well, I just believe in not necessarily telling a child what to do, but giving them options.
Yeah.
I think
great strategy.
If you can guide them the right way, give them the options, give them the choices, and just allow them to make their own choices. Because a lot of people have a tendency when you speak to a child to speak to them like a child. Don't necessarily speak to them like a child. I mean, obviously they are a child, but you want to speak to them in a way that will help them understand. Another conversation I that is directly correlated with creativity, especially in adults. But as we get older, we stop drawing, we stop being creative.
In the context of love, you're absolutely right. I love the fact that choices thing is it's a great tool, man. It gets them to stop. It gets them to pause and think. But I want you to take it. I really do want you to keep that strategy because I use it all the time and it does work. It causes pause, right? And it shows value. It shows that you value them. But take that value in the context of what we're talking about tonight, that lover part. And it's not the lover part in them. It's the lover part in you that you're going to hand over to them to benefit them, right? So, for example, I'm sitting here talking to you. I love the fact that you came on here and shared what you shared so truthfully. And I could feel this is not something you just say, oh, I'll say it. It's something you truly felt. It's something you've experienced, something you thought about, and you know what it looks like. That's love. You loved the young lady you're talking about enough to keep looking for an answer that suits not only her, but also you, right? So I really keep that option idea open. And I can give you two things to walk away with and play with as you develop this lover concept in you is don't kill something to plant something, right? That's one. And two, speak to them the way you would want to hear it. If it were you, what you really feel about it. Because usually what we talk about is the surface stuff. The girl on the TV, that's surface stuff. That's just surface stuff. The real thing is, I love you so much. I think you're better than that. I think you can be this. Let's talk about what you can be. I love that you're doing this. I find when young people hear those things, they're always measuring themselves against the world, right? But all of a sudden, they're measuring themselves against somebody they can touch, somebody they can feel. You're not an image. You're real. And I think you might even undervalue how important you are in her life. I think you know how important you are. But I want you to really think about it. You felt comfortable enough to redirect her. You felt that she would listen to you. So she has a connection to you, and you have one with her. And I just applaud you for doing it. I'd love for you to come back and let us know how that works.
Wow. I'll have to take this opportunity, gentlemen, to sign off. So with your permission.
Go ahead, Glenn. But Dr. Thompson, wow.
That's a great topic.
Absolute home run.
Yeah, like as Vance Leaguer said, mega boom to Dr. Thompson tonight.
Mega boom, Dr. Thompson.
Mega boom.
Great show, gentlemen. Great topic.
Go ahead, Glenn.
So, men, this was the third of the fourth powers of the lever. And don't underestimate your powers. When they're used for good, you just saw a great exhibition here of a blessing of other men to affirm and confirm the right use of the lover. And you've just seen it right here on your own screen. And this is what we can, and I believe we have an obligation to do for each other as men, to help mentor and grow each other, and to be a contribution, to use our powers for good. And I think tonight has been a great illustration for that. I'm proud to serve in this capacity with these men, to make room for the rest of the world to learn and grow. So, if you want to start a men's group in your community, in your town, in your organization, call me, Glenn Barker, at the Mankind Project Chicago at 312-243-6743. 312-243-6743. The call out is for concerned citizens, philanthropic organizations, any parent groups, anybody that believes that there is a place in the world for developing a healthy male. Give me a call. I'm glad to help in that process. MKP Chicago can be found on Twitter. MKP Chicago is on Facebook. So is Glenn Barker. Thanks for being with us. Stay with us next time as we go through the King archetype. Bye for now.
Glenn, do not leave. I also want Dr. Thompson to give his contact information. I will, and then you're going to leave with the for tomorrow and tell us about tomorrow night. So, Dr. Thompson.
Yes, you can reach me, Dr. Thompson, on Twitter at Dr. T Educates. You can also reach me by email at Dr. T at drteducates.com. You can also visit our website if you're interested in starting a boys mentoring group in your community. Look on our website and check out lighthouseeducationfoundation.org. And you can also find me on Facebook, the same Lighthouse Education Foundation, and also Dr. T Educates.
Okay, and you, gentlemen, while you're on the show, you can always type in that information on the side to give it to our audience. And I will let Glenn go ahead and make the announcement about tomorrow night.
So we're launching. Thank you, Dr. Vibe, and please give your information because Dr. Vibe has been producing all of these shows, and we've been down a piece of road together. And in fact, we're expanding. Tomorrow night, these are in the pilot stages, but we're putting on what's called Young Voices Radio TV. Young Voices will be taking this platform under the banner of the White House Council. We'll talk about more about that tomorrow, boys and men, and showcasing young men who are just entering mentoring organizations and those that have been along a road that could be rough and also pleasurable. But the focus of the show is to celebrate the youth, young men in the world, and then talking about the various stages of what we as grown men can do as local mentors, as mentoring organizations, as the White House Council, and as conscious, powerful, caring men. So do join us tomorrow at the same time, same channel. We'll have announcements of that. Please subscribe. Come back and see us. Dr. Thompson will be on with us, as well as Dr. Vibe. Dr. Thompson, want to make any, did I leave anything out?
No, I'm excited about it. This is something we've been working on for over a year, and to bring it down to where it really matters, to hear from the young people that we're talking about. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great experience hearing from the young men.
Yeah.
It's a scheduled Blab. So if you go on Blab and just go to scroll down, you can subscribe and be on with it. And I'll be producing, so you won't see much of me tomorrow night, but I will certainly be sending out the information and quotes in line. Myself, I'm Dr. Vibe. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show and a whole pile of other shows, but I'm not going to take up anyone's time. The best way to touch base with me is via Twitter, and I'm typing that in right now. That's the best way. I think maybe it did. Okay, if it didn't type in, no problem. There we go. And also I'll give my email address. These gentlemen, I know, have to run. I'm going to stop the recording. If anyone wants to jump in after for a little bit of an after show, I am available. But as always, I like to say you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles and you're a solution for someone's problem. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. And thanks again for spending some time with us either live or on the replay. Bye-bye.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Okay, everyone. The show is done. Glenn and Dr. Thompson have to run. I'm here for about a few minutes. So if anyone wants to come in and say what's up, or if anyone has any show topics that they would like, certainly you can either tell me live or click them on the comments page. Last night we did a show on blacks in the corporate world, and I'm just going to put it up here. I've got a whole bunch of about 5 or 6 different conversation topics coming out of that. So please don't be shy if you want to either chime in or click. Tashi, I owe you an email. No worries. I know we've got to find some time before the end of the month to start our show. Good to see you. Sorry I missed last night. We'll binge watch the replay. No problem. You can binge while. Yeah, last night was good. And the wonderful thing was that John, who was on with us, who's been in HR for 19 years. No, we're not recording. I have pause recording. No, it's pause recording. Pause recording is on right now on my screen anyways. Hold on. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. I have hosted and produced over 2,000 epic conversations over the last 10 years. And what makes our conversations epic? We don't do interviews. We do conversations.